Waging war on corruption. Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Again, it is May 20th, 2014 on this Tuesday edition. Pharmacist Ben Fuchs is with us another 20 minutes or so. There's so much going on in health news. I've got so many questions, but I noticed they stopped spraying iodine mixed with alcohol on strawberries to kill bugs and started spraying what I guess bromide or bromide on it instead. And I know back in the 20s they said, put iodine in the salt because people were being brain damaged, birth defects, and then they took it out in the 60s. Who is making all these decisions, Pharmacist Ben Fuchs? What do you think's going on? I mean, clearly it is a program to make us absolutely dumber than a box of rocks.
And it's working, too. I mean, look what's happening. Look what's happening around the world. Why are people accepting poisoning of the air through chemtrails, poisoning of the water with antibiotics and drugs, poisoning everywhere, poisoning the food we eat with pesticides, and poisoning the very genetics of the food we're eating with GMO crops? Why do we accept this? How does this even become something that we don't question? It's because we have been dumbified and made docile and mollified through fluoride in the water, through prescription drugs, through television, and through subliminal programming for the last 100 years, maybe even more, Alex. And it's time we wake up. And this is the beautiful thing about what you're doing and what people like you are doing is we're waking people up. We're helping people understand that the ones who are making the decisions for us are government people, medical people, healthcare professionals who are making these kinds of decisions don't have our interest in mind. The first step is to wake up to this. The second step is to start to take control. We can no longer participate in the medical model, in doing what the doctor says, in driving through McDonald's and Taco Bell and participating in eating the corporate swill, in taking prescription drugs, and even worse, submitting our children to prescription drug poisonings. We absolutely have to take the ball and put it back into our own court by eating correct food, by eating less food, by making sure you're getting on a good nutritional supplement program, by using the Beyond Tangy Tangerine, by using the nascent iodine, by listening to InfoWars, by participating and gathering information for your own, being a researcher yourself, understanding that this new world order that we're living in, this globalist culture that we're living in, does not have the individual's benefits in mind. The new world order, the corporatocracy, the global government is not about the individual. The individual has to be about the individual. And that means we have to do things ourselves. I believe we can. I believe, just like you do, Alex, that there is a greatness inherent in being a human being. This greatness is expressed through our genetics. This greatness is expressed through our cells. This greatness is expressed through our immune system. This greatness is expressed through our body's ability to heal and regenerate itself on a moment-to-moment basis. What we have to begin to do is acknowledge our greatness. Acknowledge the power that's inherent in being a human being. Begin to depend on ourselves. Begin to become responsible for ourselves. And let the corporate government, let the new world order die on the vine. If we don't support it, if we aren't complicit in helping it grow, it will die on the vine, and let it. Good riddance.
Well said. We're going to go to break and come back in one final long segment with you. And I thought maybe we should open the phones up right now for specific questions, supplement questions, pharmacy questions, breastfeeding questions, iodine questions for you. You want to take a few calls?
I'd love to.
All right, folks, for Ben Fuchs, questions, quick question, quick answer, 800-259-9231. He's only with us for one more segment, so we'll get right to you. 800-259-9231. Your questions for pharmacist Ben Fuchs. And I'll also get his take on Obamacare. I mean, people call it a train wreck. It's designed to wreck the economy and bring in eugenics control. We'll get his brief take on that as well. 800-259-9231. I'm Alex Jones. Our news sites are Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. GMOs are being used for population control. The government suppresses alternative medicine. Vaccinations cause autism. HIV was intentionally being sent to African communities in Africa. All of those are true on record. And by the way, to illustrate that, I'm going to cover more in the next segment. Here is AP. The chemicals chosen for bisphenol A, the plastic formula, is one of the few that actually has estrogen mimickers. It's done on purpose. The glyphosate was chosen. It causes absolute reproductive problems in women. On record, that's not debated. We're going to talk to pharmacist Ben Fuchs and take your calls about that. But the printer ink universally has the chemicals in it. The plastic leaching, everything. This is AP. But remember, doctors, there's no population control. The chemical that's added to it, how do you pronounce that again? Minnesota bans antibacterial chemical from soaps. Minnesota bans antibacterial chemicals from soaps. Triclosan. Minnesota bans common antibacterial chemical from soaps as pressure on industry grows. Triclosan. And it says it's in 70+% of the, quote, antibacterials in soaps, period. And guess what? Triclosan is used an estimated 75%. But now the Food and Drug Administration has said that it needs to be removed because guess what? It mimics and disrupts hormones critical, reading from the AP, for reproduction and development, at least in lab animal tests, and contributed to the development of resistant bacteria. And again, that shows the government's not pure evil. The FDA's own scientist in 2001 and then again in 2010, almost unanimously, thousands of toxicologists, scientists, medical doctors sent briefs in saying take hydrofluorosilicic acid out of the water. It's brain damaging. It doesn't help the teeth. It's horrible. Finally, there were lawsuits and they can't use it as a pesticide. It's supposed to be phased out. Kills bugs. The old-fashioned bug killer was that. I'm going to keep Fuchs at the bottom of the hour if we can do it to take these calls. The point is that here's an illustration of how JAMA, the big journal of medicine, comes out and says, doctors, look out for conspiracy theorists. How do you tell? Well, they think GMOs are designed to reduce population. In all the rat studies, they make them sterile by 3 generations almost completely. I mean, they piggyback stuff in all the computers to spy on us. They're piggybacking in the gene traits, and it's come out. I mean, the Kaiser Wilhelm Institutes, for heaven's sakes, now is one of the biggest groups in Germany with GMOs under a new name. Cold Springs Harbor didn't even change the name of the worldwide command base of eugenics. They're the ones behind all of this. The fertility's dropping. The third world, fertility didn't drop till 15 years ago. They started adopting all these chemicals. And you could say, well, there's too many people. Well, here's the deal. Let's just be honest about what's going on here is my point. Let's stop being dishonest about what's happening and what's going on. We're being manipulated in a petri dish scientifically, and the White House science czar, John P. Holdren, currently serving, wrote a book the year I was born 40 years ago with other eugenicists, Paul Ehrlich and his wife, Ann Ehrlich, calling for world government, calling for forced sterilization, calling for chemicals to be put in the water. Okay? Pharmacist Ben Fuchs, I want to go to phone calls and quick questions for you, but there's an illustration right there of how JAMA is coming out saying, look out for people that think, quote, cell phones are causing cancer. The London Guardian came out with a major British study last week and said, undoubtedly, it's causing brain cancer. It's a microwave system. I mean, GMOs are being used for population control. Of course they are. Government's suppressing alternative medicine. Of course they are. What do you think the FDA does? Vaccinations are causing autism. They're on record linked to it. HIV intentionally being sent to African American in Africa. I mean, they shot black people up with syphilis. What do you say to this?
It's not. What I say to it is it's not a theory. And it's definitely conspiracy because it's multiple people. by definition, it's a conspiracy, and it's not theoretical. The fact of the matter is that government has an interest in maintaining itself, like all organizations do. There is an antagonistic relationship between the government and the individual. You and I are individuals. That means by nature, there is going to be an antagonistic relationship between the governed and the governed, and that between government and the governed. And that's unfortunate, and it's not a theory, no matter what JAMA says. And how the heck can they dispute the fact that you can that electronics, like a cell phone, can will tweak the genome and manipulate the cell, which at the end of the day is a bioelectrical system? How can it be avoided?
But, I mean, they knew 30 years ago when they did cell phone studies that it was giving rats cancer.
Of course.
It vibrates the DNA at point-blank range into your brain. The contract says don't hold the phones up to your head.
DNA is electrical. DNA emits electrical energy. DNA is a radio frequency transmitter. DNA emits light. DNA emits something called biophotons. I'm not making this up. Go on Google and look it up.
No, that's how jellyfish glow in the dark.
Bioluminescence and your DNA is the same thing. So, of course, if you have an electrical system, you can interfere with it with another electrical system. That's not rocket science.
Well, no, I mean, literally, it's a microwave relay system. You put it right up to your head, and they get the brain tumor right on the side.
And what do you think happens when you put it next to a cell? Of course, you're going to create